It's time for a bit of Jim Does SuperCoach, NBA Supercoach, Week 5 wrap. We'll set you up for a quick Week 6 as well. Yeah, this is going to be a quick one because look, you can probably tell by the sound of my voice, a bit under the weather. Jim, is it your 3-day hangover? Maybe, but also the elder squid had a little bit of a virus last week. Boom. Smash cut to me just like unable to move at points. So yeah, not great. Anyway, how'd we go this week? Pretty crazy one, actually. Like with Giannis going down, it was pretty wild to start off the week, but I finished with 1159, top 3%, so ranked 972 overall in that week. My season rank is at 414, which is pretty good. Up 83 spots. Wanted to go a little bit better. Would have been Scotty Barnes. He was good. Not quite right exactly. Not the huge, big top echelon 120 plus that I wanted from him. James Harden got outscored by Tyrese Maxey as well, despite having a 55-point game. He was a bit crummy today. You get that with the older fellas. SGA was incredible though, jeez. But anyway, look, it's a pretty weird week to look at this week. And so, like, to punch through this as quickly as we can, injuries are obviously still a bit of concern. Giannis being out for 1 to 2 weeks is just, talk about throwing a spanner in the wrench. A spanner in the works. So 1 to 2 weeks, it's Giannis. He's dealing with an adductor, a groin. He had 16 points before he left that game. Now, obviously, he's going to have a massive break even if he comes back earlier than we sort of expect. He's not going to be coming back on a Supercoach schedule, so you can trade him, I think, this week. And if he comes back, he comes back. He'll probably dip in price anyway after that, right? So he's got a massive break even, like 156. So we should be okay. Despite Milwaukee having 4 games this week, you can probably be okay. The 1 to 2 week time frame, the 1 week sort of puts him tomorrow, Wednesday. And the Bucks are sort of struggling. Maybe they sort of bring him back quick, but at the same time, I think what we've seen in the NBA this year is a very conservative approach to NBA injuries, right? We don't want to actually exacerbate them. So hopefully, look, they just do the right thing and make sure he's 100% chipper to come back, and away we go. The other one was like Sabonis, who I was talking about last week, about one to keep an eye on for the next coming weeks. Boom. MCL tear out for at least a month. So not great. Rest days are also still killing us. I think if you've got any of the Warriors, you probably got burnt by this week. They rested everybody against the Heat. So it's Jimmy Butler, Steph Curry, etc. So, but either way, top 10 best scorers from the week. Who delivered? Nikola Jokic. If you didn't have the captain on him, what are you doing? 182. Maxey had 149. It was always going to be like, he is such a great fulcrum for everything that the Sixers do that it's really hard to not have him in your team. And me thinking, Harden showing a bit of form, he's, like, I don't know, Kawhi came back today. Kawhi. And he just completely forgot how to rebound, did James Harden. It was brutal. Anyway. SGA with 148. Very, very, very awesome week for SGA. He is so good. Like, they basically were just like, hey, you know how we lost to Portland that one time this year? Let's absolutely smash them. So he went for a 34, 31, 36, 47 this week. Not bloody bad. Jalen Johnson, he has been absolutely unreal. Still in only 10% of teams. 136 this week. Donnie Mitchell had 129. Zoobs finally woke up, had 124. 123 for the aforementioned James Harden. Fat Man Who Battle Clan. Kalel Ware, who I do love. He's on a couple of my other fantasy teams. 117 for him. Giddy up. Josh Giddey had 116 too. And Donovan Clingan came from the absolute clouds, 116. So, worth mentioning that Con Knipple was 11th with 114. And sort of one of the other standouts, Derek Queen was the 13th highest scorer this week with 106 for the New Orleans Pelicans. He's a Pelican, not a Pelicant. I'll just say that. Scotty Barnes, my big in last week for Wemby. 105, which across his 4 games is like, it's solid, but I expected a little bit more. He had a stinker against, well, not a stinker, but just wasn't that great against Philly in a game that they won. He had 25, 19, 29, 32. So when you look at someone like Scotty Barnes, you kind of hope that 25 is like the basement for where he starts most of his games. And for a lot of the season, he's had like 2 19s, he had an 8 and an 18, and that's literally it. So there's like at least a consistency there with Scoob, because of his assist numbers, his rebounds, off he goes. All right, so anyway, obviously the big flyers, the bolters out of this week were Derek Queen, 106, Clingan with the 116, Kalel Ware with the 117, Zoobs with the 124. Worth keeping an eye on the likes. Well, Nicky Alexander-Walker had a crazy game where he scored 35. He ended up with 101. Dyson Daniels is creeping up there with 96. Jalen Duren, 96 as well. Andre Drummond had 95 because Joel Embiid doesn't play basketball anymore. Norm Powell had 91. And one to keep an eye on as well is like Michael Porter Jr. He might be the world's biggest dummy, but he had 90 points this week. Peyton Watson had a huge game earlier in the week too, 89. But really, the biggest bust, I mean, VJ Edgecombe missed a game sitting out with the knee injury as well. So 56 points, I guess, for the week across 4 games is a bit tough. Colin Murray-Boyle's pretty brutal for Toronto because as soon as they got healthy, he's on the edge of the rotation again. Only 7 points this week. Şengün only managed, I think, 50 in their 2 games. He had an awesome game and then a stinker. KD was the same, 25 for him. Josh Minott had 38. Alexander Sarr. The Wizards have got this horrible schedule. He only had 16 points. And I think Colin Coward, if you've still got him, I think he managed, 41? So 42 in the end. So not bad. Paolo, he's still out. He's still owned by a bunch of folks. Don't know what's going on there, but either way. So the cash cows remaining for this week, what are we looking at? Well, there's a few out there, obviously. The tricky one is Dennis Jenkins. If you brought him in last week like I did, you'd be feeling pretty good because, he's risen pretty dramatically and will probably continue for a couple more weeks, which is good. He's still got a break even of where is his break even actually, now that I'm saying it? I'm saying things without even knowing them. Yeah, his break even's 12. Projected for a 47 this week. The projections might be a little bit wonky, so he's gone up to 5.7 mil as Jenkins. They've gotten Jaden Ivey back now, the Pistons. So as they work him in, you'll probably see a little bit less of Jenkins, but he has been pretty good. So I think he sticks in the rotation a bit. So just keep an eye on that one, though. But with a break-even of 12, he should still be okay, at least for a little bit more. But the other cash cows, Cam Whitmore's got the biggest break-even, or the lowest break-even, minus 12 this week. Talk about boom or bust candidates, Cam Whitmore and anybody else on that Washington team. He's got some awesome highlights, but still don't know if he knows how to play basketball. One of those weird ones. Reed Shepherd, if you've got him on your team, good job. He's still got a break-even of minus 10. He's now up to 7.4 mil. He's really fit into that rotation in Houston. Looks great running his role. Connie Nips, he's got a break-even of minus 9. He's up to 8.9 mil. And Jet Howard scored 43 this week out of nowhere. Suddenly in the Magic rotation with Paolo on the sidelines. He has a break-even of minus 6. Probably don't trust that. Caleb Love went off the other day as well. Dropped a bunch of threes. He scored 46 for the week too. Break-even of minus 2. But obviously the big one is like Derek Queen with a break-even of 1. He's at 7.9 mil. Really great. Either on-court option at this point because the Pelicans are starting him. He's playing heaps. Looks really, really good. And outside of that, I mean, Keyshawn George, he had 63 still this week. He's a really solid one. He's now up to 10 mil though, so not exactly cash cow-ish, but he'll probably still keep making a little bit of money. Dennis Jenkins with the 12 break even. He'll make a little bit of cash for a couple more weeks. See how we go from there. Otherwise, let's have a look at the trade targets for this week. I am punching through this one because I can barely talk. So, what are you going to do this week for your trade targets for NBA Supercoach? Well, it's very simple. Schedule. There are only 10 teams with 4 games this week. So, with such few of these like sort of top-notch actual players out there with 4 games this week, it's worth sort of thinking about, well, who's got 4 games the following week as well? So you're not burning another trade with a team that might not have 4 in week 7. And so next week, we're going to have 22 teams with 4 games, right? So you're laughing at that point, to the point where with so many teams with 4 games, over the next 2 weeks, in week 6 and 7, you've got Toronto, Minnesota, New York, Detroit, Indy, the Pelicans, Milwaukee with 8 games in the next 2 weeks, right? That's 7 teams. So if you're going to go for any of those teams, basically, as this sort of like rolls out, because Supercoach is a little bit different to some of the other, like the way that they're scheduling their week-to-week stuff. As we hit the NBA Cup sort of things in the first couple of weeks of December, they'll have like the semifinals for all this sort of stuff, the knockout part of the NBA Cup. So we won't have that as part of the schedule until later on. So bit of an odd one, but that's where we're at the moment. And so for me, you look at someone like Toronto there's teams that have like 14 games across like the next 4 weeks, right? With I think in 3 weeks time in week 8, a rash of teams only have the 2 games because of the NBA Cup. And we're not sure how this is all going to unfold, who's going to be in there just yet. So it's a bit weird to talk about it. But Toronto, Minnesota, the Knicks, Detroit, Indy, Pelicans with the 14 games over the next 4 weeks at least. That's the sort of thing where you go, well, if I've got them in my team, they're locked and loaded, right? And I don't have to move them. So like the big question for me is like to truly maximize like your schedule and like your point scoring ability, would you move on from somebody like SGA, right? Who's got back-to-back 3-game weeks, but then we'll have like a NBA Cup sort of setup that'll be pretty good, but has like only the 12 games in the next 4 weeks essentially across everything. So I don't know. The SGA ceiling on his scoring though is probably just too high that even if you sort of sold high on him and brought in like someone like Jalen Brunson or Cade Cunningham, I mean, SGA might still outscore them. Like, that's how good he's been. So I don't know. But with the 22 teams with 4 games this following week, it makes it a little bit easier. And you look at someone like Detroit. Cade Cunningham's now back. Jalen Duren is probably going to be the one that I bring in for Giannis. Milwaukee, a little bit trickier because without Giannis there, it's like, cool, you got 4 games. I don't want anybody from you on my team that's not Ryan Rollins. If you don't have Ryan Rollins, you're killing me. He's going to keep making a bunch of money. The Knicks, Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns are pretty interesting. Like Brunson has been really, really good since he came back from his ankle tweak. Karl Anthony Towns, that's the sort of thing where you go, the rebounding numbers for someone like Jalen Duren feel like a little bit more, I don't know, consistent than Karl Anthony Towns. The effort is probably there a little bit more than Karl Anthony Towns as well. And for Toronto, someone like Scotty Barnes, obviously elite Supercoach scoring. Brandon Ingram, if you believe in him, not a bad idea. But for the minute, I mean, there's also Sacramento, I've got a bunch of games. The Pelicans, having Queen on the team already is very cool. But if you don't have him, it's like, okay, well, I'm going to get 8 games over the next 2 weeks out of him. So he should keep scoring and making a lot of money. I feel okay. Indy's a tricky one, like maybe Siakam. Nemhard's at a weird price. Minnesota is the other one, I guess, with Anthony Edwards. But if you actually look at the breakdown of their sort of their schedule, they play this week at Sacramento and then at OKC. And you're like, all right, one of those games will be okay. Then they've got a back-to-back at home against Boston and San Antonio. Do you trust that? Is Ant-Man going to play all those games? And that's the sort of thing that's always playing in the back of my head. Because, like, Detroit, Cade Cunningham tends to play most of these games. But again, if you bring in Cade, suddenly they're playing at Indy, at Boston. They're at home for Orlando. And then they go to Miami on a back-to-back. So if Cade rests one of those games, it's like, ooh, look out. Whereas the Knicks have the perfectly laid out schedule. They play at Brooklyn, which is across the bridge. At Charlotte, easy. Back and forth. Home for Milwaukee. Home for Toronto. None of those games are back-to-back. So I think I'd be targeting probably Brunson ahead of Cade Cunningham this week. Just saying. To the point where I might bring in Jalen Brunson in place of Giannis as I sort of switch some folks around on my court for the actual, and suddenly Brunson's in my flex spot. So, which is definitely feasible at this point. And the other ones I guess we're going to start looking at is like at some point we'll have to sort of move off Cooper Flag, break even at 56, but there's sort of like a pretty high floor for what Cooper Flag does. A lot of rebounds and assists and points, like at least at a consistent level. He doesn't have too many shockers, so he's probably okay. Colin Murray-Boyles, I'm probably going to move off him this week, despite Toronto having 4 games. Probably just dig into the actual, rotation there a little bit, but I feel like we can probably find somebody in the Colin Murray-Boyle price range after we maybe move on from Giannis that can make us a little bit more money, right? So if you look at those cash cows out there, Maxime Renaud is actually doing pretty well. Backup power forward center in Sacramento. Not a bad idea. Like him a bit, especially with Sabonis out for a big chunk of time. The other ones, probably, Queen's the obvious one if you don't have him already. Whitmore as a backup, not bad, but geez, I'll tell you what, he's just so brutal. But Renaud is a really interesting one to keep an eye on. Just saying, that's probably who I'm going to bring in, try to make some more money. Ace Bailey, if you've kept him, he scored 45 this week. He's still at 5.8 mil. Not too bad, but yeah. So I reckon I'll go Reno. Oh, there you go. Right, that's it. Back Wednesday for an NFL Supercoach show as well, providing healthy enough to do it. In the meantime, make sure you're following Jim Does SuperCoach across all the socials. Get around NBA and NFL Straya as well. Twitter, Facey, IG, TikTok, YouTube, all the good stuff there. Yeah, lots of fun. Lots of fun gear popping up everywhere. So check us a rating review on your podcast app as well. Get in the comments, send us through some yeah nahs. Hit us up with any questions you want me to have a crack at. That's what I'm here to do. I've got nothing better to do, I'll tell you that much. All right, that's it. This has been Jim Does SuperCoach. Here's to a big week 6. Happy Supercoaching.